Take a slow breath in and let it go, gently. Feel the air moving through you, like a tide returning to the sea. There is nothing to control now, only the rhythm of this moment. Your shoulders soften, your hands loosen their quiet holding. The body begins to remember what it means to rest. Each breath, slower than the last. Each exhale, a small surrender. Let gravity hold you. As the earth receives your weight with patience, the room around you fades. Shapes and sounds melt into distance until only breath remains. Steady, smooth, effortless. Somewhere between waking and dreaming, a stillness opens, like the hush before dawn, like the pause between two waves. You are safe here, completely safe. There is nothing to reach for, no past to fix, no future to chase. Only this breath, only this heartbeat, echoing softly through your chest. Now, imagine the air cooling, the scent of rain touching the edges of your awareness. You are standing at the threshold of an ancient path, stone beneath your feet, mist curling around tall pines. Far away, a bell sounds once. Its tone lingers, then dissolves into silence. Each vibration seems to draw you deeper inward, closer to stillness, closer to home. The light around you is tender, a twilight that belongs to no time at all. It brushes your skin, like the breath of a sleeping forest. You take a step, then another, and the world begins to breathe with you. The wind stirs through bamboo leaves. A river whispers somewhere unseen, and everything moves in rhythm with your heart. There is no separation here. The air, the breath, the earth beneath you, one single movement of being. With each step, the noise of thought grows quieter. What remains is presence, soft, aware, alive. As you walk, you begin to feel it, the invisible pulse of the universe beneath your skin, the same pulse that moves the tides, the same silence that holds the stars. And as your breath finds its natural pace, you realize you have already arrived. Feel the earth beneath your feet, solid, ancient, alive. Each step you take matches the rhythm of your breathing. Inhale, rise, exhale, release. The stone path beneath you is cool, lined with moss and fallen leaves. Somewhere above, a thread of sunlight weaves through the mist. You walk slowly, as though the air itself were guiding you forward. Nothing hurried, nothing forced. The air carries the scent of pine and quiet rain. Bamboo leaves shimmer with tiny drops of dew. Their soft rustle becomes the whisper of your own thoughts. Gentle, fleeting, then gone. Listen. A temple bell sounds in the distance, low, resonant, like the heartbeat of the mountain itself. Each tone widens the space inside you, the space where silence lives. Breathe into that silence now and notice how it feels. Cool at first, then warm, like sunlight spreading behind your ribs. The more you breathe, the more the edges of your body begin to blur. You are less a form and more a field of awareness. Open, spacious, free. A small breeze moves across your face. It feels familiar, as if you have met it before, in another lifetime, in another breath. Notice the rhythm of your walking. It's no longer you who moves, but life itself, walking through you. Each inhalation brings clarity. Each exhalation brings release. The breath becomes a tide, coming, going, endless, effortless. You hear the faint call of a bird across the valley, its song simple, unconcerned with meaning. It sings because it is morning, because the sky is open, and for a moment, you feel the same, open, without reason. Now the mist begins to lift, revealing the contours of the mountains ahead. Soft silhouettes, rivers winding like silver threads through green. You pause, breathing in the quiet majesty of it all. This is not the outer world you are seeing, but the landscape of your own mind, clear, expansive, without boundaries. A single droplet of water slides from a bamboo leaf, falls soundlessly to the ground. That moment, that single drop, is the entire universe, arriving, disappearing, returning again. Let yourself rest in that rhythm: birth, dissolution, stillness. When you breathe in, you receive the world. When you breathe out, you give it back. The cycle continues, unbroken. The world breathes you. As you breathe the world, every sound blends into a gentle harmony. Wind, birdsong, the hush of your own breath. Even your heartbeat seems to echo with theirs. Slow, steady, present. You reach a bend in the path. Ahead, a small bridge crosses a quiet stream. The water moves beneath it, with the soft murmur of time itself. Pause here. Lean over the wooden rail. Watch the ripples move outward and fade into stillness again. This is how thoughts move through the mind, appearing, widening, disappearing. The water never resists. It simply allows. Notice how your awareness mirrors that water now, clear, reflective, accepting everything, holding on to nothing. The air grows lighter. Even the mountains seem to breathe. A bird takes flight across the mist, its wings brushing the edge of the sky. You follow it with your eyes, and something inside you lifts with it. There is no longer a separation between what is seen and the one who sees. You are the breath, the wind, the quiet observer, the song itself. Every inhale a return, every exhale a letting go. Each breath carries you deeper into the center of what you truly are. And as you walk once more, the world becomes softer, the light around you golden, the stillness within whole. You feel the pulse of the earth rising through your soles, meeting the rhythm of your heart. The two beat together now, one pulse, one silence. The path narrows, turns gently toward the valley ahead. The sound of the river grows near. You can almost hear it breathing, a slow and endless song. Let the sound draw you inward. With each step, you sink deeper into calm. With each breath, the mind settles like dust in sunlight. In this quiet, you begin to sense something unfolding, a story written not in words, but in wind and light and memory, a story waiting to be remembered. As you follow this path, the forest opens before you, and a new scene begins to form. A wooden gate, a garden bathed in morning light, a figure sitting beneath a flowering tree. A story begins to unfold. Morning unfolded like a whisper over the mountain village. Mist clung to the fields, soft and silver, and the sound of distant bells floated through the cool air. A farmer stepped out from his small wooden house, his breath visible in the early light. He carried no rush in his movements, only the calm rhythm of someone who had long made peace with the earth. The wind brushed against the rice stalks, and the fields shimmered, alive, breathing. He listened to the murmur of insects, to the quiet song of running water, to the pulse of the land that had raised him. Then, footsteps, the sound of many feet approaching along the dirt path, voices low, hurried, carrying the tone of news. The villagers came, their faces filled with worry and sympathy. They bowed lightly and said, "Old farmer, we heard what happened. Your horse ran away last night. Such misfortune. What will you do now?" The farmer looked at them for a moment, his eyes reflecting the mist, and then he smiled softly. He said only, "Is that so?" The villagers exchanged looks. They expected sorrow, complaint, maybe fear, but the farmer's tone held none of these. It was as though he had simply accepted the wind's direction. He turned back toward his field, picked up his hoe, and began working again, each movement steady, each breath untroubled. The villagers walked away, shaking their heads. "Such calm," they murmured. "But surely his heart must ache." Days passed. The mist lifted. The moon grew full and waned again. Then, one afternoon, the missing horse returned, and behind it, a small herd of wild horses followed. The villagers saw and hurried to his house once more, their excitement rising like wind in tall grass. "Farmer, you are blessed. Now you have many horses instead of one. What wonderful fortune." The old man looked up from his work, the same calm eyes, the same quiet smile. He said softly, "Is that so? No joy, no pride, just the same even breath." Then he returned to repairing his fence, as if nothing extraordinary had occurred. The villagers whispered among themselves, "Does he not see the blessing before him? Has his mind grown dull with age?" But that evening, when the sky deepened into indigo and crickets began their steady song, the farmer sat beside his door, watching the wild horses graze under the moonlight. He did not reach for them. He did not count them. He simply breathed, in and out, allowing the world to move as it wished. A few days later, his son, young, strong, full of restless energy, decided to tame one of the new horses. He climbed onto its back, laughing, the villagers cheering him on. But the horse, startled, rose on its hind legs and threw the boy to the ground. A sharp cry, a thud, then silence. When they carried him home, his leg was broken. He could no longer walk. The villagers came again, their faces painted with pity. "Oh, farmer," they said, "how tragic. If only the wild horses had never come. What terrible luck." The farmer bowed his head slightly, his voice calm, almost like wind moving through reeds. "Is that so?" he said. Then he sat beside his son, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder, feeling the warmth of his skin, listening to the sound of their shared breathing. In the quiet room, weeks turned to months. Autumn came, crisp, golden, filled with the scent of harvest. One morning, the sound of drums echoed from the village square. A messenger had arrived from the capital. A war had begun. All able young men were to be taken to the front. The villagers wept as their sons were gathered, each family offering their farewells, beneath a grey, trembling sky. But the farmer's son, his leg still healing, was left behind. The officer saw his crutches, shook his head, and said, "This one stays." The villagers turned once more to the farmer, their faces a mixture of envy and relief. "You are lucky, old one. Your son will live. How blessed you are." The farmer, as always, smiled gently. "Is that so?" he replied, and the wind moved through the fields, as though it too was smiling. Time passed like breath, slow, invisible, ungraspable. The seasons turned, painting the land in quiet colors. The farmer tended his fields, as he always had, planting in spring, harvesting in autumn, listening in between. Sometimes the wind carried laughter, sometimes it carried grief. He welcomed both. At dawn, he would sit by the edge of his field, a bowl of tea in his hands, and watch the clouds drift. When he breathed in, the world expanded. When he breathed out, everything softened. He once told a passing monk, "Fortune and misfortune, they are like shadows on the same stone. You can chase one, but the stone remains." The monk bowed. He understood, or maybe he didn't, but the silence between them was enough. That winter, snow came early. The village slept under a blanket of white. The air was thin, each sound amplified. The crunch of footsteps, the creak of wood, the whisper of the wind's slow turning. The farmer grew older, his hair silver as frost, his movements slower, but his eyes clear, still, bright. Sometimes, when he spoke to his son, he would tell the story of the horse, not as a lesson, but as a rhythm of memory. "It is strange," he would say, "how the mind loves to name things. Good, bad, loss, gain, yet the wind keeps no record." His son would smile, understanding now what he once could not. And when they walked together to the field, their shadows fell side by side, two shapes moving in silence across the snow-lit earth. In the years that followed, many of the young men who had gone to war never returned. The village changed. New roofs were built, new children born, new sorrows carried quietly between breaths. Through it all, the farmer kept tending his land, not because it promised anything, but because it was there. He had learned that peace was not a gift waiting to be granted by circumstance. It was a practice, like breathing, like planting, like letting the wind pass through. One evening, long after sunset, he stood at the edge of his field. The sky was filled with slow-moving clouds and the faint light of a waxing moon. He closed his eyes, listened. The crickets had stopped singing. The world held its breath. He whispered to no one, to everything, "Is that so?" The words drifted into the dark, carried away on the night wind. And in that small, unremarkable moment, the whole of his life folded into stillness. Neither good nor bad, neither gain nor loss, just the quiet pulse of existence, breathing itself awake. By morning, the first light touched the horizon, turning frost into silver fire. The son found his father in the field, resting peacefully, his hands folded over his chest. The hoe leaned nearby, its handle coated with dew. The earth beneath him had been freshly tilled, ready for another planting, another beginning. The son knelt beside him, his breath visible in the dawn air. He felt grief rise, then ease, then dissolve into something softer. He whispered the words his father had said 1,000 times before, "Is that so?" And in that moment, the wind answered, moving gently through the valley, over the fields, through the bamboo, through the silence that followed. Everything changes. Nothing stays long enough to be named. The seasons turned, the fields breathed, and the old farmer kept tending the earth, without asking the wind for reason. Night descended softly over the monastery. The moon, full and unhurried, floated above the roofs like a quiet lantern. Mist gathered around the courtyard pond, turning the world into layers of silver breath. In the far corner, a single candle still burned, its flame bent slightly in the breeze. Steady, aware, alive, Taesui sat nearby, kneeling beside an old well. Her robe was simple, her hair bound loosely beneath a faded cloth. The air smelled of wet earth and pine. Crickets sang in the shadows, and above it all, the moon kept its silent vigil. She was fetching water for the temple kitchen, yet her mind was far from the task. Thoughts came and went, like clouds over a mountain peak. She had been studying with her teacher for years. Still, understanding felt like mist, near, visible, but never something she could hold. Her teacher once told her, "The way is simple. You must see clearly what is already here." But what did that mean? She had searched through silence, through sutras, through long nights of meditation, and still she could not find it. So tonight, she simply worked. No questions, no search, only the sound of the bucket lowering into the well. The rope slid through her hands, rough, familiar. A hollow splash echoed from below. Ripples spread, touching the reflection of the moon, breaking it into trembling fragments of light. Taesui watched, her breath slowing. Something inside her whispered, a voice without words. Is the moon in the water, or is the water in the moon? She froze, half smiling at the absurdity of it. A childish thought, yet somehow, it lingered. She pulled the bucket up, and as it rose, the reflection climbed with it. A glowing circle dancing inside the moving water. When the bucket reached the rim, the moonlight shimmered through every drop that spilled over. Each drop held the entire sky. Each drop, a tiny, perfect world. A breeze passed through the courtyard, rattling bamboo leaves. A dog barked once in the distance, then silence again. The surface of the well grew still, the reflection reformed. One unbroken moon, one unbroken mind. Taesui knelt, her hands resting on the cool stones. Her breath deepened. For the first time, she was not trying to understand. She was simply seeing. The moon, the water, the seeing itself. They were not three things. They were one continuous movement, appearing and disappearing within the same stillness. The thought came again, softer now. Where is the boundary between what reflects and what is reflected? No answer arose, only quiet. Only the sound of a drop falling from the bucket's edge. Plink. That sound echoed longer than it should have. It seemed to fall not only through space, but through time. Something opened inside her. Not a door, not an idea, but a widening. She felt her body dissolve into the air around her. The heartbeat, the breath, the light, the stillness, all the same rhythm. For a brief eternity, there was no she, no watcher, no moon, no well, only awareness, round, luminous, endless. The sound of the drop faded. The world held its breath. A voice drifted through the darkness. Her teacher's voice, calm and near. You see it now. She didn't turn. She didn't need to. The old monk stepped closer, his sandals whispering over the stones. He gazed into the well. What do you see? He asked. Taesui's lips parted, but no words came. Speech felt unnecessary, like trying to paint wind. The teacher smiled faintly. Good, he said. Keep seeing. He walked away, his silhouette dissolving into the mist. Taesui remained. The moon began its slow descent toward the mountains. A rooster crowed in the distance. First one call, then another. The world was waking, yet she felt as though it had never slept. She lifted the bucket once more, pouring water into a clay bowl. Tiny ripples spread across the surface. When they stilled, the moon appeared again, whole, calm, undisturbed. She whispered, barely audible, to the reflection, when the water moves, the moon dances. When the water rests, the moon remains. And she understood. The movement was never a flaw. It was the way of all things. Later that morning, she carried the water to the kitchen. Steam rose from the pots, mingling with sunlight through the wooden beams. The novices chatted softly, their laughter like wind chimes. Taesui moved among them in silence. No rush, no thought of hurry. She poured water into a kettle and watched it begin to boil. Bubbles surfaced, each one reflecting the same light, the same sky, the same moon. She smiled. The moon had never left the well. It had always been here, in every glimmer, in every breath. That evening, as the sun set behind the western hills, Taesui returned to the courtyard. The teacher was sweeping fallen leaves. The world smelled of smoke and rain. She bowed. The old monk nodded, resting the broom against the wall. What remains? He asked. Taesui looked up at the empty sky. No moon yet. Only pale clouds drifting slowly, their edges tinged with fire. She said softly, nothing and everything. The teacher's eyes gleamed. He said nothing, just watched as a single drop of rain fell onto a leaf and rolled to the ground. That night, rain fell steadily. The sound filled every corridor, every room, every breath. Taesui sat by her window, watching droplets trace patterns on the wooden sill. Each one found its way downward, meeting others, becoming a stream, disappearing into the soil. She realized even the rain did not belong to the sky or the earth. It moved freely between them, borrowing form for a moment, then returning. So it was with the self, with thought, with everything that seemed separate. She closed her eyes, listened. Each drop whispered, falling, returning, falling again. At dawn, the rain stopped. The world smelled of renewal. She walked to the well once more. The surface was smooth, mirror-like. reflecting a pale, washed clean sky. A few petals from the plum tree floated on top. One by one, they drifted toward the center, then sank quietly, leaving no trace. Taesui stood there a long while, watching, breathing, until her teacher joined her again. He asked, "Where is the moon today?" She smiled, eyes half closed. "Everywhere," she said. He nodded. "That is enough." And they stood together, listening to the sound of water, of wind through bamboo, of nothing at all. Years later, when people spoke of Taesui, they said she had become like water herself, calm, transparent, reflecting everything without holding it. If joy came, she smiled. If sorrow came, she bowed. Neither left a mark. Her students asked, "Master, what did you learn that night at the well?" She would look at them, eyes clear as the moon's reflection, and reply, "When the mind is still, the whole sky fits inside a single drop." And when the students tried to understand, she would only gesture toward the well and say, "Listen." Then they would hear it, the faint, eternal sound of a drop of water falling, falling, falling. The moon drifts higher, the well grows quiet, and another dawn begins to breathe. Morning came softly over Vulture Peak. The valley below still slept beneath a veil of mist, but above the clouds, light gathered, golden, slow, silent. The disciples assembled in the garden, robes rustling like wind through reeds. They sat in quiet rows before the Blessed One, waiting for his words to begin. The air was gentle, not a single leaf stirred. Even the birds seemed to listen. Buddha sat upon a simple rock, eyes half closed, hands resting lightly in his lap. The moment itself felt suspended, as if the world were holding its breath. And yet, he said nothing. Time passed. A leaf fell. Someone coughed quietly, then silence again. Finally, he lifted his gaze. From the grass beside him, he picked up a single flower, a pale lotus, still wet with morning dew. He turned it slowly between his fingers, petal by petal. The light touched it, a trembling softness, a still, wordless teaching. No explanation, no speech, only that gesture, the turning of the flower in his hand. The disciples watched. Some looked puzzled, some bowed their heads, some waited, believing words would follow soon. But there was only the flower, and the quiet, and the sound of wind over distant hills. Among them sat Mahakashyapa, his robe faded, his face weathered with years of practice. He looked at the flower, and something within him moved. A smile, faint and effortless, rose like sunlight over still water. It wasn't joy. It wasn't understanding. It was recognition, the kind that needs no language. Buddha saw it. Their eyes met, and in that gaze, something wordless was exchanged, as if one flame had passed its light to another without losing its own. A single smile between master and disciple. That was all. Yet it carried the weight of centuries. Buddha spoke at last, his voice as calm as the mountain air. "I possess the true Dharma I, the subtle mind of nirvana, the formless essence of truth, not dependent on words or letters, a special transmission beyond scriptures. I give it to Mahakashyapa." Then silence again, a silence vast enough to hold all meaning. The others bowed, but few understood. How could a smile be a teaching? How could awakening pass? Without sound, without scripture, without thought. The lotus in Buddha's hand began to close, its petals folding softly toward its heart. Mahakashyapa remained unmoving, his smile lingering, like moonlight that refuses to leave the water. Later that day, the garden emptied. The disciples returned to their huts, whispering among themselves. But Mahakashyapa stayed. He sat where the Buddha had sat, beneath the same tree, beside the same flower. The world seemed ordinary again. Bees hovering, wind stirring dust, the faint hum of life returning. He reached out, and the flower's stem brushed his hand. Its petals were already fading, turning translucent in the heat of the sun. He whispered, "The teaching is already gone," then paused. No, it was never here, and he smiled again as the petals fell quietly into the grass. That evening, the Buddha walked alone by the river. The air was cool, and the reflection of the mountains trembled on the surface of the water. Mahakashyapa followed at a distance, footsteps silent. He stopped when the Buddha stopped. For a long while, they said nothing. The sound of the river filled the space between them, a steady, eternal recitation. Finally, Mahakashyapa bowed. "Master," he said softly, "what did you give me this morning?" The Buddha turned, smiling gently. "I gave you nothing," he said. "I only showed you what you already are." The river glimmered with that truth. No ripples, no waves, only flow. The moon rose high. Bamboo leaves shimmered silver in its light. A breeze passed through the reeds, and the world seemed to whisper. Nothing is said, yet everything is heard. Mahakashyapa sat by the water's edge, eyes closed. He felt the teaching still alive, not in words, but in every movement of the night. When the wind touched his cheek, it smiled. When the water rippled, it spoke. When silence deepened, it bowed. And within that silence, he heard laughter, soft, boundless, echoing from nowhere. Years passed. The Buddha's body left this world, but his silence remained. Mahakashyapa wandered from valley to valley, carrying nothing but a bowl and that same quiet smile. He taught no doctrine. He quoted no sutra. When people asked for the way, he would pick up a stone or point to a tree or say nothing at all. Some understood, most did not. It didn't matter. He once told a young monk, "The flower still blooms. It only waits for your eyes to open." 80s. The monk asked, "Where is the flower now?" Mahakashyapa looked up at the sky. Clouds drifted slowly past the sun. He said, "Everywhere you do not look for it." One night, as he rested on a mountain path, he dreamed of that first morning. The garden, the light, the lotus turning in the Buddha's hand. He dreamed of the silence that followed, and in that dream, he realized the silence had never ended. It was the space between every word ever spoken, the breath between thoughts, the pause before each new birth. He woke with tears on his face, not sorrow, not joy, just the vast tenderness of being awake inside the endless now. As dawn arrived, he descended to the river once more. Mist clung to the reeds, and the water shone like brushed glass. He took a single flower from the riverbank, a small white lotus just opening to the day. He held it up toward the light, and for a moment, he saw the Buddha's face in its heart, not as memory, but as presence. He smiled. The wind stirred. The petals trembled. The reflection on the river dissolved. A fisherman nearby watched him and asked, "Old monk, what do you see in that flower?" Mahakashyapa looked up, his smile soft, his eyes deep with stillness. He said, "The whole sky." The fisherman laughed. "Then where are you?" Mahakashyapa turned to the water, his reflection flickering beside the lotus. He whispered, "Gone." The flower drifted from his hand, carried by the current, petals opening wider as it floated away. It turned slowly, catching the morning light, each reflection dissolving as new ripples formed. When it reached the bend of the river, it was no longer visible. Only the shimmer of water remained. Mahakashyapa closed his eyes. The smile stayed. Somewhere in the wind, he heard the echo of that first morning. The wordless teaching, the silent flame, the flower opening in the heart of the world. The petals fell, one by one. The air was filled with light, and the listener, without knowing when, had already entered stillness. Take a slow breath in, and let it fall softly out. Let the air move through you, not as effort, but as a tide returning to the ocean. Everything you have heard, the farmer, the drop of water, the flower and the smile, they are all here now, breathing inside you. You do not need to remember their words, only the stillness they left behind. Close your eyes a little more. Feel how the world grows wide in darkness. Notice the small movements in your body, the rise of your chest, the weight of your hands resting where they are. You are not doing anything wrong. You are simply here, in the gentle rhythm of what is. Sometimes, the mind wants to name everything: good, bad, success, failure. But beneath those names, there is a silence that never leaves. It waits, like calm water beneath waves, like breath beneath thought. Can you sense it now? The stillness that is not created by effort. It was here before you listened, and it will remain long after the story ends. Take another breath, slow, deeper, and as you exhale, let the body melt a little more. Let the shoulders drop, let the jaw loosen, let the air leave without control. The world keeps moving, seasons turning, winds shifting, hearts breaking, rivers flowing. But you can rest here, in the quiet center of it all. This is what the farmer knew, that no event, no fortuna, no loss can define peace. It is the space between each thought, the pause before every word, the breath that always returns. Now imagine yourself standing again on that old path. The bamboo rustles softly. The air is cool and filled with morning mist. The farmer is there, tending the earth. He looks up and smiles at you. He says nothing. He doesn't need to. You remember his voice, that calm, weightless tone. Is that so? You understand now. His peace was not in what happened, but in what he allowed to pass through him. Can you feel that in your own life? Where do you resist the wind? Where do you hold on to the turning of events and call it fate or misfortune or blessing? Now, as you breathe, see if you can let it all move. The joys, the worries, the names, see them rise and fall like leaves caught in the air. You do not need to catch them. You do not need to follow. Simply notice, simply allow. That is enough. The scene begins to shift. The mist thins. You are now standing beside a well. The water is still. The moon floats inside it whole. Perfect, quiet. Taisui is there, her eyes calm, hands folded over the bucket's rim. You kneel beside her, and together you watch the surface of the water. A single drop falls. Plink, a tiny circle widening across the reflection. You hear her whisper, "When the mind is still, the whole sky fits inside a single drop." Intoes that. Let that thought rest in you, not as a phrase, but as a feeling. You, too, are a reflection of the vastness. You, too, contain the sky. When your mind moves, the world seems to scatter. When it settles, everything returns to its place. Can you feel the stillness between the ripples? Can you trust the quiet more than the motion? Take another breath. Let it move through you like moonlight on water. Soft, unbroken, whole. Now the sound of the well fades. The water becomes air, and you are once again in the garden on Vulture Peak. The morning light touches your face. You see the Buddha lift a single flower. No words, only the flower and the smile. You watch Mahakashyapa's eyes fill with light. You feel something stir in your own chest. A quiet recognition, like a memory from beyond time. There is no need to understand, only to feel the stillness that exists before thought. Sometimes the deepest truths are carried not in language, but in silence. The flower blooms, the smile happens, the heart opens, and no sound is required. Let that silence fill you now. Feel how it expands from your chest, outward through your arms, your breath, your skin. It moves gently into the space around you, a field of quiet, soft, and luminous. In this stillness, nothing is missing. Nothing is wrong. Nothing needs to change. The mind may try to return, to ask, to judge, to define. That's all right. Just smile gently at it. The way the old master smiled at the flower. Smile and let it drift away. Now breathe again. Deep, slow, complete. With each inhale, you gather what remains scattered. With each exhale, you release what was never yours to hold. Let the stories, the images, the sounds settle into your body like seeds finding earth. You do not need to understand their growth. The soil does not hurry the spring. Just rest. Just breathe. Can you feel it now? The pulse beneath the silence? The same pulse that moved through Hakuin's field, through Tai Sui's well, through the Buddha's hand. It moves through you too. The same awareness, the same light, the same stillness disguised as breath. You are not apart from it. You never were. You are not the wave that rises and falls. You are the water itself, unchanging, clear, deep beyond measure. As you rest here, let the boundaries soften between body and air, between sound and silence, between the listener and the listening. Notice how it feels. When everything begins to blur, there is no need to fix the edges. They were never real. Everything that comes, comes to pass. Everything that goes, returns as breath. All things, seen, unseen, remembered, forgotten, move within the same vast stillness. That stillness is what you are. In this quiet, you might sense a question rising, so soft it barely exists. What am I, when there is nothing left to name? Stay with that question. Do not rush to answer. Do not think. Simply listen. The silence will answer in its own way. Maybe as warmth, maybe as light, maybe as nothing at all. And that nothing will feel complete. Now breathe again. One last deep breath. Inhale the calm. Exhale the noise. Feel the body melting deeper into stillness. Feel the weight of the day dissolving, as if mist were lifting from your skin. Let your breath become slower, softer, until it seems the world is breathing for you. You are resting in the rhythm of existence itself, the same rhythm that turns the seasons, that carries the moon, that grows the flower and lets it fall. It does not hurry. It does not resist. It simply moves. Stay here a little longer. Let the stories fade into silence. Let thought fade into light. Let the listener dissolve into the listening. There is no separation anymore. No outside or inside. No before or after. Only this. The breath, the stillness, the quiet truth that needs no name. You are home. You are whole. You are already free. If you listen closely, you might still hear it. A farmer whispering to the wind, a drop falling into water, a flower turning toward the light. All of them are speaking to you now, in the same silent language. Be still, be here, be this. And as you breathe, you realize there was never anything to reach, nothing to understand, nothing to become, only this moment, and the endless stillness within it, holding you, like the earth holds the sky. Let the story settle into your heart, like moonlight resting on still water. Take a slow breath in and let it fall away. Gently, quietly, completely. The air moves through you, like a tide at the end of the day, returning to where it began. There is nothing to hold now, nothing to fix, nothing to seek. Just this soft rhythm of being, this stillness that opens with every breath. The body rests, the breath slows, the edges of the world grow dim. It feels as though even the light has learned to close its eyes. Every sound becomes a whisper, every thought a leaf floating downstream. You are drifting now, not away from yourself, but deeper into what you've always been. In the quiet of this moment, all the stories you've heard begin to breathe as one. The farmer and his field, the drop of water, the flower and the smile. They are not memories. They are movements within you. They have become the air around your heart, the silence behind your breath, the peace beneath your name. Listen, can you hear them? The faint murmur of wind in the rice field, the soft plink of water in the well, the still turning of a lotus in unseen hands. Each sound fades into the next, until all that remains is one unbroken song of stillness. Now, imagine again the path you walked at the beginning, the stone path lined with bamboo. The mist has lifted, but the air remains tender. The farmer's field stretches before you, quiet, endless, golden in the evening light. You walk slowly through it. The stalks brush against your palms. The earth gives beneath your feet. Everything hums with life, and yet nothing moves in haste. Far off, a bell rings, low, resonant, the sound of the day bowing into night. With each step, the boundary between you and the world softens, dissolves, disappears. There is no longer a path, no traveler, no destination, only presence, vast, luminous, alive. Pause, hear, breathe. Feel the air as it enters your body, cool at first, then warm, then neither. The breath no longer belongs to you. It belongs to everything, and everything breathes you. As you walk, the landscape begins to shift again. The field becomes a sea of silver light. The ground beneath your feet melts into reflection. You are standing on the surface of still water. It holds you easily, as if you weigh nothing at all. Above you, the sky. Below you, the same sky reflected. There is no up or down, no beginning or end, only infinite clarity, stretching in all directions. A single ripple appears, then fades, and you realize you are the ripple. You are the stillness that receives it. You are both the water and the light. Let that knowing sink deeper. The mind may whisper, "This is peace," but even peace is a name, and you have gone beyond names. This stillness does not need meaning. It simply is, like wind through bamboo, like the hush after a bell, like the pause between heartbeats, somewhere far away, or maybe within. The farmer's voice returns. "Is that so?" You smile. The words no longer sound like question or answer. They are simply sound, a movement of wind through silence. You feel yourself smile back, not with the mouth, but with the whole being. This smile has no shape, no reason. It is the smile of existence itself, gentle, boundless, free. You begin to sense the presence of all who came before, the teachers, the wanderers, the listeners who sat beneath the moon. Their quiet lingers here, woven into the air you breathe. No one ever left, no one ever arrived. All of it, each story, each life, each silence, was one continuous unfolding. And you were never outside it. Breathe again. Feel the rise and fall of your chest, like the movement of a tide. As the breath deepens, you begin to feel lighter, as if every exhale releases 1,000 small attachments you no longer need. The weight of memory, the noise of time, the ache of wanting, all dissolving into the quiet around you. What remains is a vast and gentle awareness, open, empty, awake. In this stillness, you can hear the earth breathing. You can feel the pulse of the sky. Everything moves together. The wind, the stars, the breath, the heart. A single movement, without center or edge. This is the great rhythm the old masters called thusness, the natural way, needing no effort, no correction. It does not wait for understanding. It does not stop for questions. It simply flows, and you flow with it. Let the rhythm take you now. Do nothing, be nothing, just rest, in the silent knowing that all is already complete. Each moment arises and falls away, without trace. Each thought forms and dissolves, like mist on the mountain. Each heartbeat, a wave returning to the ocean of stillness. You may begin to notice a deep quiet blooming inside your chest. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of something infinite. It is soft, yet radiant, still, yet alive. This is the stillness beneath all motion, the peace that exists even in the storm. It has always been here. It is your original home. The night deepens, the stars appear. Their light falls across the water, like fragments of a dream. You lie down upon that light, or perhaps it lies down upon you. There is no difference. The body grows heavy, then weightless. The breath slows, then disappears into rhythm itself. You are floating in the silence, between one heartbeat and the next. You are floating in the eternal now. If a thought appears, let it drift past. A small boat on an endless sea. No need to chase, no need to row. The current will carry it where it belongs. Everything knows its way home. Everything, including you. As you drift deeper, the boundaries between dream and waking begin to fade. You are no longer the listener. You are the listening itself. You are no longer the witness. You are the space in which witnessing happens. You are no longer the seeker. You are the stillness that never moved. Notice how gentle this truth feels. No pressure, no command, only a quiet invitation to be. There is no need to reach enlightenment. You cannot arrive where you never left. What you seek has been breathing through you since the beginning of time. It is not a secret to be found. It is the silence that was never lost. Now, imagine a single candle before you. Its flame steady, its glow soft, casting light across an unseen room. Watch how the flame flickers slightly, then returns to stillness. It does not fight the wind. It simply sways and shines. You, too, are this flame, anchored in the unseen, moving with what comes, never extinguished. The light you feel within is not something borrowed. It is the same light that moved through the farmer's smile, through Taesui's reflection, through the lotus in Buddha's hand. One light, one breath, one stillness wearing many faces. Let yourself rest in that recognition. Let the heart open, not upward, not outward, but inward, like a flower blooming toward its own center. The petals fall away, only fragrance remains. This fragrance has no source. It is everywhere. It is what you are. Time dissolves here. Even the idea of ending fades. There is no before or after, no path or arrival. Only this ever-unfolding presence, silent, tender, awake. You can stay here. You can rest here. You can let the stories fade and the silence take their place. Nothing is lost. Nothing needs to return. All is whole. Now, take one last, slow breath. Inhale the peace of everything you have seen. Exhale the last traces of needing to understand. Let the breath move through the body, like wind through an open temple. Let it clear every corner, every lingering echo. And when the breath pauses, in that space before the next inhale, notice the perfection of that pause. That pause is home. That pause is eternity. Stay in that pause for a moment longer. Feel the entire world resting with you. Mountains, rivers, clouds, and stars, all breathing, all dissolving, all at peace. There is no listener now, no story, no teacher or teaching, only stillness, only presence, only this, unutterable, quiet, that has no center, no edge, no end. And as the final echo fades, let these words dissolve too, like footprints disappearing in sand. You are not separate from anything you've heard. You are the field. You are the drop. You are the flower. You are the silence holding them all. You are home. You are whole. You are infinite stillness, breathing itself awake. Rest now, in stillness, in peace, in the quiet knowing that nothing is missing. The story has ended. But the silence continues, and in that silence, you are free.